Hey, this is the homework help video for Unit 4, Objective 5, Worksheet 5. So for this one here, so the 1 through 11 odds is where we had to show our work, so I'm going to do a couple from that section. So we're going to take a look at question number 7. So for question number 7, we want to find the limit to infinity. And so we want to find the highest degree, so the highest power is a 1. So I want to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 1 over x. So that's because, again, the highest power is 1. So if this had been an x squared, I'd multiply by 1 over x squared, 1 over x squared. And then I want to distribute that in, and when I distribute, I also want to simplify. So I'm going to multiply 1 over x to both of those. So that will give me 3x times 1 over x, right? So the x's will cancel, and then plus, and then when I multiply here, I'm going to get 9 times 1 over x, or 9 over x. And then here, x times 1 over x is x over x, and then 3 times 1 over x is 3 over x. So normally I would reduce at the same time I'm doing these problems. So I'm just writing it out this time for you guys to kind of see how I'm going to get this. So I'm going to write equals, and then I have the limit of my new function, so the x's are going to cancel. And then the x's will cancel to 1, and then plus 3 over x as x approaches infinity. So the limit of my new function as x approaches infinity. So the limit of a constant stays a constant, so the limit of 3 will stay 3. And then as x approaches infinity for this fraction will be 0. So the bigger x gets, the smaller the fraction going to 0. So this whole thing will just go to 0. So I could write 3 plus 0, but I don't need to do that. And then in the denominator, I'll have 1 plus 3 over x as x approaches infinity. So the limit of a constant is a constant, so that would be 1. And then as x approaches infinity, so this will go to 0, because the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction, so that goes to 0. So then I'm left with just equals 3. So then that means I know that there is going to be a horizontal asymptote at y equals 3. Okay. And then let's do one more here. Let's take a look at number 9. So my largest degree is 2, so x squared. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1 over x squared. And then I'm going to distribute. So this is the square root of x is the same as x to the 1/2 power, right? So x to the 1/2. So I'm going to have x to the 1/2 over x squared plus 2 over x squared, and that's just for the numerator. So when I reduce that, I want to subtract my powers, so 2 minus 1/2 is 1.5, or 3/2, and then just 2 over x squared. And then for the denominator, so this will give me, the x squareds will cancel, so that'll just leave a 1, and excuse me, 4 times 1 over x squared is 4 over x squared. And so now I'm going to go ahead and take that limit. So the limit of this will end up being 0, right? So any value over any power, so that'll be 0. And so will this one. So I'll have 0 plus 0. And then the limit of a constant is a constant. And then the limit of 4 over x squared as x goes to infinity would be 0. The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. So equals 0 divided by 1, or 0. And so then I know that there is a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay. And then let's take a look at some of the mental math ones. So we'll start with, let's see, number 17. I was like, where is it? Okay, 17. So we're going to start with 17. So for this one right here, so for mental math, we look for the highest degree. So I look at the whole problem and I see that my highest power is a squared. So I'm going to highlight both of those. And so then I just use the coefficients of the highest degree term. So I would have a 4 over -2, which is -2. So then that means I have a horizontal asymptote at y equals -2. Okay, and then let's take a look at number 19. So for 19, I want to distribute this out, right? Because I don't want it to be in factored form, I want it to be distributed. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that out. So I'll have 2x times itself, and then -6x and -6x, and -3 times itself, and then distribute the bottom. So I'll have 3x times 2x, and then 9x minus 2x, and then -1 times 3. So I want to find the highest degree, so that will be x squared. And then I take the coefficient of the highest degree, so 4 over 6, which is just 2/3. So there will be a horizontal asymptote at y equals 2/3. And then let's do one more. Let's take a look at 23. So for 23, I looked for my highest power, so that would be 8x cubed. Oops, I just saw this is approaching 5/2. Hold on, I want to find one that is more like not to 5/2. Oh, here we go. So 15, let's take a look at 15 first, and then I'll go back and do 23. So for 15, we're approaching infinity. So again, I want to find the highest power, so z to the 4th. And then I want to use the coefficient of z to the 4th. So there is no z to the 4th up here, so its coefficient is 0. And then the coefficient of z to the 4th down here is 1. So 0 z to the 4th, right? No z to the 4th, so 0 on top, and then the coefficient of this one is just 1. So 0 over 1, which is 0. So then there is a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay, back to 23. Okay, so for 23, so for this one here, so this one is doing, we're not using infinity, right? We're just reviewing, so this is like 5/2. So first I would substitute in 5/2, and I'm going to get a calculator for this. So hold on, people. Okay, so I'm gonna use my calculator, and I'm gonna just plug in the 5/2. So I'm just gonna work that out on my calculator. So multiply 2.5 times itself, and then times 2, and then plus 3 times 2.5, and then minus 20. So that would give me 0. And then I want to do 2.5 or 5/2 in the bottom. So I'm going to do 2.5 to the 3rd power, and then times 8, and then minus 125. And so that also gives me 0. So I have 0 over 0. So then that means I want to factor. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this out. So for 20, I can use 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. So I think it's going to be 4 and 5, because that will give me 8x and 5x. And I want the 4 to be positive, so that will give me 8 minus 5, which is 3x. And then this is cubic factoring, so that will be 2x minus 5. And that's because 2x times itself 3 times will give me 8x cubed, and then negative 5 times itself 3 times will give me negative 125. So then I want to square, so 2x times itself, and then I want to multiply, so 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x, but opposite, and then negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. And then that will cancel, and so then I don't have enough room up here, so I'm just going to do a little semicolon right here. So I want to do the limit of my new function, and then as x approaches 5/2, and then substitute that in. So I'm going to use my calculator for the bottom, and I'm going to write that as 2.5. So I know the top will be 6.5, and then I'm going to do 4 times 2.5 squared, and then plus 10 times 2.5 plus 25. So that gives me 75, and then divide that. So I'm getting something around 0.087. So something around that value. Okay, and that's it for the homework help video for Objective 5.